introduce today's presenter. Bob Payne is an educational technologist and instructional designer for System Academics. In his previous roles at Port Huron and online campuses, Bob brings an abundance of knowledge and enthusiasm for student engagement and teaching with technology. And he has been kind to agree to present this session today. So Bob, I think you are all set to go.
Very good. Sounds good. Allison, I'm just going to double check that you can hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. And double checking that you can see my Blackboard screen.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Allison, for the introduction. Hello and welcome everybody participating in today's PD session, filling in the gaps of some Blackboard here as we enter week 3 of the fall quarter here. What we're going to be talking about today is the 4 professional standards of Blackboard usage and an attempt to fill in some of the gaps that you may have. There's going to be plenty of time for questions at the end, along with throughout the session. As Allison mentioned, as I'm explaining things, if something pops up, go ahead and put it in that little chat box in the bottom right corner there of your screen, and we will answer those as we go forward. So specifically, the 4 professional standards of Blackboard, that is the discussion board, the grade center, the assignment link, and communication. So those are the 4 things that we're going to talk about. So first off, what are they? The discussion board is really a community forum. So it is public. Anything that gets posted in the discussion board is seen by all of the students in the class and by the faculty. So it's like a chat board. The Grade Center is a way to record, house, and communicate grades, as well as provide feedback to your students. The assignment link is like a digital Dropbox for homework submission. In communication, when we're talking about that 4th professional standard, there's a number of different ways that we have to communicate with our students, and the idea here is that we want to keep our students in the loop of what's going on in the class and anything that may be changing as we go forward with the class. We may have to change something, we may have to let them know about something, and so communication is very important. So those are the 4 professional standards, and that's what they are. So why do we use these particular ones that we're discussing today? Well, first of all of them support Baker's mission. They also support the AIM initiative, or the Academic Improvement Model Initiative. All of you have been through AIM training in one format or another. And it's also a Lean Six Sigma quality improvement project that we have going on right now. And part of a quality improvement Lean Six Sigma project is to gather the voice of the customer, which is essentially a survey or surveys that have been done to determine the customer, what is it that they're looking for. So we surveyed all kinds of faculty to find out what is it at a minimum level, so for professional standards of using the foundational principles of Blackboard, what is it that we think all faculty need to be engaging with regarding Blackboard with our students, and so that's where they come from. So at this point, we're going to go into some demonstrations. I told you what the 4 are and why we're using them. Now it's all about how we're going to use them. So at this particular point, we're going to talk about demonstration of all of these individual items, and I'm going to open up a test shell here for Blackboard. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the discussion board. So we'll do a little discussion board demo here. The discussion board is one of the boxes, or sometimes they're not in a button like we have on the screen here. It might just be the word discussion board.
Okay.
So you'll click on that and launch that from the side.
Okay.
And so that gives you the ability to
Talk to you soon. Bye.
create a forum, and then actually use that forum to have the discussion. So if this is the first time you're opening discussion board in the class, this is all going to be blank down here. You're not going to have all these things that I have in this test class. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create a forum. So I just clicked on Create Forum. That is going to give me this particular window here. And there's parts to it, part 1, part 2, part 3, and so forth. I'll talk about those as we go. Anytime that you see this asterisk, this orange-looking asterisk in any area of Blackboard, it means this is a required spot, a required field. So you have to put something in here, or Blackboard will not allow you to move off of the screen and move on to other things. So in this particular case, in your world, I might just go something as simple as, week 1. Creating an individual discussion board for each of the 10 weeks in my class. And then I'm going to give it some type of descriptor. I might say this is the public forum for this course, what have you. Whatever it is that you think you need to put in here as a descriptor to identify the purpose for this forum. In area number 2, you have forum availability. The default is always going to be to yes. However, it is possible that you could set up all 10 of your forums at the same time and then release them based on date and time. If you're going to do that, you always have to make sure that you have the yes check, but I could come down here and say, I would like this to open a week from today. So I'll put the date of the 21st, essentially midnight, that's going to open. I could also decide that it's going to come off at a particular point, or in other words, be unavailable to students in this class. I don't have to do that. I can build my discussion boards 1 week at a time. I can build all 10 of them at the same time and have them all open and just not have anything in there from a student point of view for work to do. Down to area 3 is the forum settings. And generally, there's not much that you have to do. You really can just go down and hit submit and you're done and you've created this discussion board. However, some of you may want to take advantage of some of the other features here, like using a graded discussion. And although we're not specifically going to talk about that today, where we identify that this particular discussion board is going to be graded and give it a set of points, we're not going to do that today as part of our training. There are some tutorials and some support that I'll be referring to at the end of this session that will give you some of that additional background. So at this point, we've done everything we need to do. We come down here and hit submit. And we've now created this discussion board. So just so you know, is as you add discussion boards, they're going to show up at the bottom of your list. So we're right here. I'm going to take and drag this all the way up to the top, or close to the top here. And all you're going to do is drag and release when it gets to the spot where you need it to be. So one of the things that's important once you create a discussion board is you need to show the students that this particular board is live and it's active. The best way to do that is to create a first or an opening thread. So you need to put in the first post. So you're going to create thread. And again, we have this little orange asterisk here, which means we need to actually put something in the subject box or it's not going to allow us to move forward. So it could be something like a welcome. We could ask a question. This could be set up to say, hey, welcome to week 1. I'm your instructor. Please introduce yourself to the class. A number of different things that you can do in this particular spot. Whatever that information is that you're going to put here, you do have a set of toolbars, if you will, a text editor, which has these 3 lines. First time you go in here, yours may actually look like that. All you have to do is go over to the right-hand side and click on that drop-down chevron. It changes to the upward pointing, and you have 3 lines of text editor. This gives you access to things like bold, italicized, underline. You can actually do hyperlinks. You can record videos, attach files, video, audio, all that kind of thing. So assume we have everything that we need to do. We could also attach things, as I said, a file from my computer or from the content collection, which is the My Files tab up here. Assuming everything is the way we need it to be, we just hit submit. And we now have this particular post. We've opened up this discussion board and we've created the first post. I do want to come over here and pull up a sample here. This is an example of a discussion board post. So in this case, we're asking a question. So let's talk about best practices for discussion board posting. It's an excellent opportunity to spread out the learning in your course utilizing Blackboard outside of that one night a week where you have the students in class. So there are actually three components or best practices of a discussion board. The first thing is pushing content. This is where you add something new beyond the text. So you may actually add a website. You may put an attachment in there, maybe a document that if you were in a face-to-face situation, you might just hand this thing out. So you're adding something new. Maybe the particular content that you're covering this week, there could essentially be something that, you know, maybe the book didn't go into as much detail as you would want, and you want them to go further. So in this particular case, we're talking about the subject is assessment. How do you know your strategy is working? And so the instructor has posted, we have had the opportunity to discuss a wide variety of instructional strategies over the past 2 weeks. What becomes the essential question to follow implementation is how do we know if our strategy had the desired effect on student learning? And so ask the students, how do you know your instruction is effective? So notice that this is not a yes or no. It's an open-ended question. May require them to do a little reflection. You could post something here that maybe requires them to voice their opinion and then back up or justify in their own words. Maybe it's an exploration type of a thing where you ask them to go out and find some information and bring it back. So here's one example of a discussion board post. And I'm going to talk about the other two components to that perfect or best practices. The second one is practical application. So things like examples or current events or professional experiences. Maybe there's something you would like to share that happened in your workday related to the content for this particular week that you would like to engage your students with. So how does it relate? Maybe you want to see how it relates across other courses that the student has had. If you're teaching class 2, let's say, in a series of classes, maybe you can relate it back to class 1 and some of the knowledge that they gained in class 1. And then finally, the third best practice is called guiding discussion. So this is where you'll elaborate, you'll correct misconceptions, you'll redirect maybe the conversation happening on the board between you and the students in your class. Or you can ask some probing questions. So here's an example here. You're a United States Senator appointed to a committee charged with revising the Federal Reserve. And so they have some parameters here that the students have to read and work through. And then at the end it says, assuming the public interest model holds here, should you work to support or reject this bill and why? So this is going to allow the student to do a little critical thinking. Again, here's an example of an answer that a student posts. And as you can see, it's not a very short yes or no. There's some quality here. They either have to voice their own opinion, they have to go look some stuff up, they have to elaborate. It gives you the ability to maybe bounce back and forth and ask them a follow-up question to see if there's anything, you know, to take it a little bit deeper in their end. So those are some examples here of some screenshots. And I talked about the three best practices, the pushing content, the practical application, and the guiding discussion. At this particular point, I'd like to pause to see if we have any questions, Allison.
No, we do not at this point.
Excellent. Okay. So we'll move on then to the second item of our Blackboard professional standards, and that is the Grade Center. The Grade Center is actually also along this left-hand side beyond the buttons or tool links here. If you scroll down a little further, you'll get to this area down here in the course management part of your course, and there's this item right here called Grade Center. So you can either hit the little arrow here and it'll open up, or you can just click on it and it'll open up, and it gives you two choices. The needs grading is not something we're specifically going to talk about today, but the reality of that is if you have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and you'd like to see, is anybody turning anything in that needs my attention right away? You can just click on needs graded and it'll pop up any assignment that the student submitted to the grade book that is waiting for your attention. In other words, you have not graded it yet. You have not put a score in or provided any feedback. But we're going to go into the full grade center, which pulls up all of the columns. So grade centers are always going to look a little bit different depending on your particular class, the types of assignments, and so forth. So the grade center itself will have columns. If you have any type of class that's been created to any degree, say a UBD class or what have you, the class grade center could be anywhere from partially completed to totally completed for you. But in a lot of ways, you may end up getting a blank shell for Blackboard. It hasn't anything, it's not any course shell that's been touched. It's basically the blank master. And so I'll tell you and show you how you would go in and create those particular columns. Before I do that, I want to kind of talk a little bit about the layout here. You'll have all your students' names on the left-hand side. There might be other columns here like username, date of availability, last time they attended, any of that type of thing. You have the ability to hide things or keep things open. I just hid that. I can bring it back if I'd like to, but maybe I just want their first name, last name, their total score, and then any of the individual columns. So at this particular point, if I have to build my own or I have to add something to an already existing grade center, I need to go up to this spot here where it says Create Column. And so the areas that you're generally going to go to when you want to do some work besides the actual grade center itself is going to be to Create Column, which I'm going to show you now, and this little Managed area over here. So we're going to go to Create Column, and we're going to create a grade column for a particular assignment. So again, there's our asterisk. That means we must give this assignment a name. So I've given it a name, and whatever I listed here is what it's generally going to show, unless we change it in the second box, is what it's going to show in the grade center. So think about that as you're building the name. Students are going to go into the grade center, and they're going to try to look at how did they do on a particular assignment. So whatever name you give this particular column should be representative. If you have a reflection assignment every week or a discussion board assignment every week, you don't just want to type in discussion board. You're going to want to give it a little more. Reflection week 1, discussion board week 7. Otherwise, they're all going to run together and you and your students are going to get confused on which one is which. Again, you have your dialog box here, your text editor with your 3 lines, your 3 toolbars of various tools that you have. So you can do all kinds of things in this spot again, just like you could in the discussion board. There isn't anything that you have to type in this particular box at all. You can continue to move down. The default on primary display is always going to be score. You do have other choices, but score is the most common. Don't have to do anything on a secondary display. And the category area here, don't have to do anything there. The only other thing that you have to do, and again because of the asterisk, is to put in the points for this particular assignment. Put the points in, hit enter. I don't have to do anything with dates. I don't have to do anything with options if I don't want to. At this particular point, I've created this column. I'm going to hit submit. And just so you know, don't panic if you don't see it here. Every time you add a new column, just like when you add a new discussion board, it moves it all the way to the end. And this might be where we want it, but maybe it's not where we want it. So that leads us to the next part of the grade center that we're going to want to use, and that's the manage area. If I put my mouse on top of that manage button, I get this drop-down menu, and where I want to go is to column organization. So if I click on column organization, I get all of these things, and this is practice class, so there's tons of stuff in here. You wouldn't have anywhere near this, but I have all of these columns in this particular grade center. If I go down to the bottom, here's that week 10 reflection, and let's say I want to move that up to another spot. This is not the right spot for it, and it makes some sense for you and your students to kind of have things in order from left to right that they will be assigned and submitted in the class. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hover my mouse until I kind of get this four arrowed kind of star here, and I'm going to click and drag, and I'm just going to move this thing up to where I feel it needs to be. Let's say I think it's good right there, and then I'm going to release, and so there's week 10 reflection. It moved all the way up from the bottom to this particular spot. If I need to move it up or move it down, I just do the same thing again. Once you're done, you have your column where you want to, you're going to click Submit. And so now we have the column, and it's going to be here somewhere, wherever I ended up moving it. I'm probably not going to find it really easy because there's a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, here we go, right here. So that takes us to grading of the columns. I'm going to get all the way back over here to the beginning. When you actually grade, you have two places that you can go. If you're just putting a score in, you can go right here and you can enter a score. And then you can tab over and that locks the score in. Notice that it totals everything for you once you put the points in. You can actually then go to this little chevron right here. You can click for more options. You can actually get yourself a comment box to type feedback to the user. Or you can get yourself something a little bit more. Actually, let's do it this way. I'm going to go to the second person. Rather than putting in the score, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit View Grade Details, which opens up everything. I still get those same boxes. These are actually a little nicer because they're the regular text tools from my text editor, which also gives me a spell check, which is kind of nice. I have access to all those different things, and I can put the score in here and then hit Save. And then I return to the Grade Center and I'm done. Just want to describe these two boxes for you. Feedback to user. This is a box that anything you type in here regarding information you want to give your students for their feedback, maybe some helpful corrections for the next time, maybe talk to them about what they did well, what they didn't do so well, areas for improvement, what have you. Any of that stuff that you type in here or any other way that you do it, maybe a file attachment, video feedback, what have you, needs to go in this feedback to user box. The grading node box is FYI for you. You as the instructor are the only one to see this. So this is just notes you want to leave yourself as a reminder for later on in the course. Anything you put in here, the student will not be able to see, so that's not where you actually want to type something. Okay. And I'm going to save the last item in the Grade Center for my next demo because it'll make a little bit more sense there, and that is occasionally you will see this symbol in your Grade Center. This identifies that this particular column, this WebEx reflection, as an assignment was submitted. There is a file linked and it needs to be graded. We're going to get to that in a second when we talk about assignment link. I'm going to pause at this point to see if anybody has any questions about the Grade Center.
I have no typed questions sent in.
Okay. Just to remind everybody again, I'm getting a little feedback on this end, so if everybody could double check that they have their phones or their headsets on mute, that would be great. Okay, assignment link. Assignment link is the third professional standard that we're going to talk about today. And so again, the assignment link is a digital Dropbox for students to submit homework. So you're going to generally go into your weekly folder if you're face-to-face faculty. Seminars is for the online faculty. So I'm going to figure out where this assignment needs to be submitted, and you have to create at least one assignment link within your 10 weeks in the course. You can do more, but the minimum requirement is for you to do one. So let's say I'm going to go into Seminar 2, or Week 2 in your case, to create this assignment link. So anytime I want to add some things, most of the time it's content. That's this particular area here. You see these items and files and folders and whatever. However, this particular item that we're talking about, the assignment link, is actually listed under the assessments dropdown. So if you see this third item down here, this is the assignment link button. If I click on the assignment link button, I got to give it a name. In this particular box is the instruction area. So this might be where I say, do week 3, and maybe the points, 100, and then I would put some instructions in here. The instructions could be a Word document that I would attach, or they could just be typed instructions, whatever those things happen to be, that would talk about the deliverables and anything that the student needs to know in order to work on this assignment. Now here's another one of those orange asterisks. Remember I said that that means you must enter something. In this particular case, we're putting in the score. So it doesn't matter that I put the score here. We want the score to be linked to the grade book. So in order to do that, I have to come down here and put 100. And then I can tab or enter off of that, and it locks that point total in. Now,
Bob,
yes.
if it's a UBD course, are the assignments already posted?
Correct. The assignment links would already be done for you in a UBD course, but in a face-to-face UBD course, generally there's something like 600 points that are assigned. You would have up to 400 additional points. So there may be a situation where there's an assignment that you're going to add, or multiple assignments that you're going to add to the class, that you can then go in and create an assignment link for those and have students post that into that assignment link that you create.
So if you total it up to, say, 1,000, then that's where you'd put your additional postings.
Correct. At this particular point, again, there's a tutorial I'll talk about at the end. If you feel like you want to create a clickable rubric and add a rubric at this particular point, you could do that. That's not part of today's training. There isn't anything else that I have to do in this spot. So I come down here and I hit submit. And we've now created, again, every time we do something new, right, it shows up at the bottom. So here it is here, research project week 3. And what a student is going to do then is they're actually going to click on this link. The instructions that they will have in the assignment is to click on this title. So click on the assignment title. So that's usually what I tell them. To submit your work, please click on the assignment title and attach your file. So they're just going to click on that, and then they can either, depending on what it is, type the information in here, copy and paste it, or they can browse their computer and attach their file and hit submit. So that's the assignment link. Now, before we go on to the last one, I do want to go back to the Grade Center because I want to show you on your end what it looks like. This item here, you saw this a few minutes ago when I was talking about the Grade Center. What this sign means right here, this exclamation point and kind of like this gold circle, means that this is an assignment link submission that needs your attention. So in this case, this thing needs to be graded. So the best way to get access to this is to go over to this little drop-down chevron and click and get View Grade Details. So what that's going to do is that's going to take you inside the Grade Center for this particular student. This is the column that you're working in here, the WebEx reflection assignment, and 30 points is the total. You have information on when this was created and submitted. Okay? And so now you click on View Attempt, and that individual item is going to load right here in front of you. This is called inline grading. And so this particular assignment, in this case, happens to be just a Word document that I threw in here for examples. And there are instructional tutorials that are out there on the site that I'm going to show you how you can do things like insert comments and highlight various things and draw and all that stuff that you normally do when you grade. So not only can you do that on the paper itself, but you also have that grader feedback area right here. And if you want to do something a little bit more, If you're a little bit more adventurous and want to do something like video feedback, if you come down here and click on this A, you actually get that toolbox that we were talking about before, that full 3-line set of toolboxes regarding your spot where you can add anything that you want to do. That's your text editor. The other thing you have to do is put in the score. So let's say this particular student gets a 27 out of 30. I then would have the ability to give him or her some feedback in this area here. I do have spell check that I can do. If you had a rubric already built in, what's called a clickable rubric that I talked about briefly on that other page, there would be another box right here. And you would click on that and it would open up the rubric right here on the screen. So you'd be able to see their work plus the rubric, click on those individual rubric categories for scoring, and it would total everything for you. When you're done, you have all the score and your comments in, you just hit submit. And then I'll return to the Grade Center, and you'll see now that that exclamation point has been removed, and we now have the score there. Students access their information through Student Tools and My Grades that I'll talk about in a minute. So that's the assignment link demo. Any questions on the assignment link demo?
I have none typed in.
Okay, we'll move on to the fourth and last item of our Blackboard Professional Standards.
Before you move on, if no one else is going to ask, could I ask again, just quickly show me how I put the rubrics right next to the student's paper?
Ken, I can do that with you offline. That's not really part of what we're going to do, but I will show you at the very end.
Okay, not a problem.
That rubric tool, we already have a tutorial created for it.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
But yeah, that's actually, it really makes it easy once, you know, if you have those already built and you kind of align them right to the assignment, it really makes it easy for grading. So you and I can always talk about that after. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is talk about communication. As I said, there's a number of different ways that you can communicate with your students. One of the ways is through Student Tools. Student Tools opens up this big thing, and normally we don't go in here ourselves as faculty. This is where our students go for all kinds of different things, as you can see, to access all kinds of different things. But the thing that I come in here to do sometimes is this item right here that says Send Email. And so if I click on Send Email, I get a bunch of choices. I can email all the users in the class. If I have put students in groups, I have the ability to do that. Or I can come down here and select single users. So just as it describes underneath each one of these, it tells you what you would use it for. If there was one or two students that I wanted to send something to as a reminder, and all I have to do is select single user, I get a list of everybody who's in my class, along with myself. Notice I'm here as well, too. But I can choose a student and choose this little arrow pointing to the right, and it moves them over to this side. And if I want to share this with a couple of students, I just move them over. Let's say I decide, oh, Mandy, that's wrong. She's not one of the people. I just move Mandy back. Maybe I don't need Barb's student either. So maybe Ann is the only one that I need to send this message to. Again, now we're just constructing an email. I give it a subject, I do my message, I can also attach a file, and I go and hit submit. One of the nice things about communicating with your students this way is we just got a copy of this particular email that I sent to one, more than one, or all of my students right to my Baker College email. So I actually have a copy of this. So if there's some issue with maybe some communication with students, they're struggling in course, they have some personal problems to talk about or what have you, and you got a little communication going back and forth, if you actually go through the Student Tools area and send the email, you will always have a copy of everything that you send. So in case you need to have a document trail later on, that's not a bad way to go. Another way to communicate with students, and I recommend you do this at least at the beginning of every class, and that is to create an announcement. Here's an announcement in this test shell class here. This is something that you can kind of list in the class that kind of gives them, hey, here we are, welcome, this is what the class, this is what it's about, this is who I am, and kind of walk them through what next. Start here. So talk to them about what they need to do over here in the class. Maybe you want to tell them to go to course information and then check out your information and then go to the discussion board or go to the week folders, what have you. Whatever it is that you feel would be valuable to let the students know what they need to do to get started in the class. So here's a sample one here for this particular class. So it's Welcome to Finance 325. This is a continuation of the 6th week. This is one from an online course. So it talked about, please take some time to familiarize yourself with the class layout. Each link on the left will navigate you to a different materials and tools and so forth. So we're referring to that menu that's over here to the side. And then it's next, click on the seminars. Inside this folder, everything you need to know related to the first week of class, then briefly introduce yourself, and then finally click on the discussion board because that's where all the work takes place. So that's one spot, and here's one more I wanted to show you. This one, this is what, since fall started, fall of 2014, for those of you that are not teaching a UBD design course and you're getting the blank master shell, many of you may have seen this, or this is at least what's in the shells going forward, where basically we've already created an announcement for you in instructional design, and so you just need to actually go in here and edit this particular screen and insert your course name and ID and put your name, the date, and then the contact information for yourself, and then we got this squared away. So those are some examples of some announcements. The last thing is there is usually in the instructor resources folder, if you've taught UBD class, you get one of those shells. There's some instructions in here about your syllabus and assignment summary. I think they're going to be, for winter, they're going to be putting that in the blank master shells too, for those of you getting access to a Blackboard shell. But from what I've been told, you guys have been kind of doing this automated syllabus builder process for a couple of years, so you guys already know how to do that. But another method of some good communication is to make sure that the syllabus, the document, I believe it's a PDF, if I've been told correctly, that comes out of that syllabus builder process on campus, you can actually go in and add it into course information as another way to communicate with your students. Here's a syllabus spot. And so I might want to do edit, and then I might want to, whoops, I didn't have to edit that one. That's actually what I want. Syllabus is what I want. I'm going to click on it to open it. And then this is where they would go and get that particular syllabus. You would just add your attachment that you got from the syllabus builder at this particular point. So those are just 3 ways to communicate with your students: the announcements, posting your syllabus, and then using student tools to be able to send an email out. I have a tendency a couple of days before the quarter starts, I'll do an email to all of my students. So I'll go to send email, select all users or all student users, and then I'll create an email that says, you know, welcome to Finance 101. I'm your instructor. Just wanted to let you know classes start Monday. And then everybody will get that email. So that's just another way to communicate. Any questions on the communication demo?
No typed ones.
Okay. I want to show you 2 resources. I've talked about the fact that there's always, you know, you go through one of these things, they do happen awful quick, you're getting a bunch of information, and sometimes there isn't always, either you don't have the question at that time, or you think about it later, or when you're actually trying to do this work on your own, you need some additional help and some support. So let me show you 2 places that you can actually do that. The first is off of our regular Baker website. And if you go over here to My Baker, once you log in, right? Okay, there's this area, you can get it in 2 places. You can get it down here, or you can get it over on the left-hand side here under Home. But you click on Web Application. And then you're going to go to this top one here that says Employee Departments, Academics, ET&L. That's actually what we want. That's Effective Teaching and Learning. And you have the Effective Teaching and Learning, or right here. Professional Development. And there's this Blackboard Professional Requirements, which is actually what we're talking about today. And Allison put together some really good information here. We have our mission and our guiding principles. And all of these items here with this little dot next to it, these are all hyperlinked to Blackboard's official site for tutorials. So a lot of the things that we talked about today, announcements, assignment links, discussion board, grade center, so forth. Here's the email one down here. So a lot of the things that we talked about today, using rubrics. Ken, I think you were the one that asked the rubric question. So there's a tutorial on the rubrics right here. And again, I can help you one-on-one if you get to that point. But this is one spot where you can go and get access to some tutorials that can help you out, kind of just-in-time resources. These are available 365, 24/7 because they're on our website. And I want to talk about one last one, and that is the EdTech and Resources page. If you will go to guides.baker.edu/edtech, this particular site was put together by myself and my team. This is basically a research guide that we have actually built to house resources that we've created to help you. And this is kind of, there's stuff on here other than Blackboard. If you are just looking to maybe do something with a discussion board, to do a compare and contrast assignment, to do a case study, what have you, there's going to be some information in here that's going to help you. There's some tabs here along the top. Flipped and blended resources is actually kind of a nice one. There's some ebooks here, some information. These are the two guys that started the flipped concept here, so it's a nice little book here. Probably can read it in one afternoon in about an hour or so if you want to get a background there and you're starting to do some of that stuff in your class. But I wanted to show you this tutorial tab. This tutorial tab, once you click on that, opens you up to this blog that we created that has all kinds of different tutorials here. These are all video tutorials. There's probably over 60 of them at last count. We try to do a new one every week, time permitting. And they're all tagged, so they're clickable by label over here. So if you're looking to do, let's say, case study, critical thinking, compare and contrast, concept formation, didactic questioning, all you have to do is click on these labels over here on the right side, and it will take you to whatever tutorials we have created regarding that. Another thing that's nice is that we have them identified and linked to levels of Bloom. So if you're looking for, hey, I want to do an application with something, you're looking for Bloom's level 3. So we have them tied to the instructional strategies that are on the ET&L website, and we have them also tagged to Bloom's level of taxonomy. And for a number of them, we actually have other links to take you to some other spots where maybe you watch this tutorial and it's not really what you need, but you'd like to maybe get something else or get access to something different. There's all kinds of things in here that you might find some value with. So those are the two spots. I did want to show you that. And again, that's the guides.baker.edu, and that's /edtech. There you go. And that was the tutorial tab that I went into. So that's really all. That's really all I have to talk about. Yes.
Somebody asked if you would take them back through and show them again how to get to the ET&L page.
Yep, absolutely. Baker. Okay, so let me go back. Let me go all the way back out to the beginning Baker website here. So just, nope, that's my Baker. So Baker's website, and then I went into my Baker. And from my Baker, I can hit either web applications here, or I can come down and hit web applications here. And then when this opens up with the drop-down links, you want the first one, which is this academic ET&L. Okay, so it's employee departments. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on effective teaching and learning, which is what ETL is. Right. professional development, and then we're at Blackboard professional requirements. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns?
Anybody? How are you finding your incorporation of Blackboard with your classes? Some of you have used it before, some may be brand new to it. What are you finding so far?
Would putting a group together on Blackboard be appropriate for today, or is that another session?
That wouldn't be anything that we have time for today, but there is, whoops, I just saw it. There is actually a tutorial on groups.
Okay, that's
right there. So it's off that Baker site, Ken.
Okay, thank you. What's the other name for groups? The name that you don't recognize is quick, short. There's a short abbreviation that they're using in Blackboard. I can't think of it right now, but that's all it means is groups.
Yeah, I don't know if I know exactly what you're asking.
Are you, may I chime in? Are you referring to the F/D groups? Which I use, by the way, to the shortcut to groups. Is that the answer you're looking for?
Yeah, I don't know. Ken, does that make sense?
It's just another name for groups. I was talking to Tammy about it once. I asked her what it meant. And so it doesn't matter. I'll go back and go over the tutorial on groups, and I'll be fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any additional questions? Okay, if we have no more questions, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. We do have another session next week, and you would have received that session to get registered for that one as well, but it will be next Wednesday, I believe. So feel free if you'd like to join to get registered for that session. We will be doing these sessions every month, so